I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform. I'd like to thank you for joining me today. Since the inception of our radio show, Operation Freedom, now almost 11 years ago, hard to believe. Time flies when actually you're having fun and, and there's always something to talk about. Over the past 11 years, one of the main topics we have focused on is your financial freedom and your and economic freedom. Now you might say, well, wait a minute, what I call CNBS, Fox Business News, Reuters, well, they focus on my financial freedom. No, they don't. No, they focus on financial propaganda that benefits the big players, the deep pockets, the globalist syndicate, whatever you want to call them. But it surely doesn't focus on your, or anyone you know, our financial and economic freedom, which is why it is my honor to bring back with me someone who's a very, very close and dear friend, and someone with her family and the company that they created, the CaminoCompany.com, have created a financial freedom, economic freedom lifeboat for you and everyone you know and everyone you love. We have spoken and dissected the issues of financial markets and hard assets. We've done that. And every time I do an interview with Adriana Reed, you, our listeners, contact me and say, you need to do this more frequently because the information that Adriana provides, we are not getting from CNBS or Fox Business News or Bloomberg or Reuters. So it's my honor to welcome back someone, Adriana Reed, who is a principal and I believe the most honest and straightforward precious metals based company, the Camino Company, Camino Company, C-A-M-I-N-O, CaminoCompany.com. She is a trader. She is one of the principals in the Camino Company. And she is also one, if the most honest person in the precious metals arena. It's my honor to welcome back Adriana Reed. Adriana, welcome back to the Operation Freedom platform and DaveJanda.com.
Thanks for having me again, Dave.
So, Adriana, right now, the head of the Federal Reserve. Before we talk about what Jerome Powell has recently said, let's talk about the Federal Reserve because you're one of the very few people that's willing to speak about the Federal Reserve.
Right.
The Federal Reserve, it's a group of bankers who care about every one of our listeners, every person in our country, every person of the world. So, as a foundation, Adriana,
yes,
the Federal Reserve, do they really care, or do they really care about the criminal banking syndicate of which the Federal Reserve, at least in some people's opinion, is more of a banking cartel? Which is it?
Yeah, exactly, Dave. It is a banking cartel, and that's just the fact of the matter. They basically control the economy. They control the money supply that comes out to the United States, all while working with people around the world in order to have control over people's finances. They put us into extreme debt and then blame the people for it. Their books are questionable, in my personal opinion, as far as what they report on their sheets. And I think that it's time that they be audited just because they are private and are not a government entity. And I think that it's critical that we start taking them down.
So the head of the Federal Reserve is this Jerome Powell. And the former head is now the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. Now, if that doesn't give anybody a little bit of the shivers, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So all of our listeners go to the gas station. They go to the grocery store. They buy some lumber for home improvements. And they've been seeing prices skyrocket over the past year.
Right.
Jerome Powell, as recently as just the other day, said, don't believe your lying eyes. Oh, prices are up a little. But hey, they're only, now here's the operative word he says, and all of them in the Fed say, it's only transitory. It's just a blip. Adriana, do you believe that the inflation every one of our listeners has been gouged by over the past year, if not longer.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe it? Do you believe it's transitory?
Absolutely not, Dave. I think that it's just an excuse, to be frank. They're using COVID as an excuse for a lot of things. So we have this transition where the economy needs to start coming back. And they said, well, it's just a matter of a little bit of time while people start getting back out to work and we get back to some type of norm. But I completely disagree. The reason I disagree is because in 2020, we printed money out the wazoo and people were getting free money constantly. And that comes at a price. There's no such thing as free lunch. Mm-hmm. And the price that we're paying is with inflation. One of my main concerns when 2020 started happening with everything was that we would go into hyperinflation, which is a very dangerous territory for an economy. But right now what we're seeing is stagflation, where there is no economic recovery by any means. I mean, I don't know if you see it, because I definitely don't out here in California. I don't see people going back to work quickly. I don't see people getting back on the lines, back on their jobs, back to work in general. And we're still giving out money to people. And what happens is the price of goods is starting to go up. Those goods are the same goods that they were in 2019 before this whole thing started, but your dollar is not taking you as far. And the problem is we don't start making more money when these things happen. So that's the issue that we're running into.
Well, let's just look at a couple of headlines recently from Zero Hedge. Manufacturing survey disappoints in June. Signal looming, as you mentioned, stagflationary threat. So we have higher prices, but the economy stagnating. U.S. producer prices soar at record pace in June. Following yesterday's hotter than expected consumer price inflation, expectations were for another rise in producer prices. And just like CPI, the headline PPI soared past expectations, up 1% month over month. That is the highest print on record. But for context, that is the highest since actually a CPI print since 1982. 1982. Stagflation was horrendous.
It was
78,
awful.
79, 80, 81, 82. So, inflation nation, consumer prices surged much higher than expected in June. Inflation, labor shortage, and supply chain problems weighed on services sector. Which brings me, Adriana, to something that has been termed Biden-Flation. Based on economic policies, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, by the way, since he stopped the whole Keystone Pipeline deal and all that kind of stuff, you live in California. Mm-hmm. What are you paying like now? Probably what? $2.50 a gallon for gas. What are you paying right now, Adriana?
Oh gosh, no. Right now, I filled up my tank yesterday, Dave, at $4.95 a gallon, and it cost me $97 to fill up my tank.
$4.95 a gallon.
Yes, absolutely.
What was it a year ago?
A year ago, I probably would put it like just around like $3.50, probably somewhere around there. And it's only gone up. It keeps going up. I mean, it's like, to be frank, the area that I live in is less expensive than some areas down in Southern California, who I've heard, especially during the 4th of July weekend, they were paying $6 a gallon.
Okay, so in Washington, D.C., the old Beltway, right? The politicians are saying, this is what they're saying now. That it's not the gas prices and some of these other costs of products going up. They're not adversely affecting folks. Now you have a great family. You have kids. Have the prices increasing affected you adversely?
Absolutely.
Well, according to the politicians, they haven't. Come on, Adriana.
The politicians don't fall on the same spectrum of the American people because they don't live to the same standards that they hold everyone else to. Let's be frank about that. The issue that you run into is the average family. You nowadays, especially mom, dad have to work in order to make ends meet for most people. So you have that issue, number one. Then you throw daycare bills on top of that. You throw a cost of goods starting to increase. It can be very detrimental to a family. I mean, just to be able to drive around, not everybody can afford $100 of gas a week. That's $400 a month. So you're looking at $5,000 a year for people who what their average salaries range from 30,000 to 60,000. So right off the bat, $5,000 in gas for somebody. So to say that it doesn't affect people is it's just naive, it's stupidity, and to be frank, it's insulting.
So this was just put out by Dr. Susan Berry from Breitbart. Biden-Flation, cost of gas, used cars are up, up, up. Here we go. Oh, year over year, just a little points. Car rentals costs, year over year, up 88%. Used car prices up 45%. Gas up 45%. Laundry machines up 29%, airfare up 25%, moving expenses up 17%, hotels 17% up, furniture 9% up, bacon 8% up, TVs 8% up. I mean, these are huge costs.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you're looking at basically almost a 20% increase in your cost of anything across the board for an average family. And it's inconceivable at this point.
And then people in the butt off lamestream fake media read that as CNBS and Fox Business. Want everybody to think that this hasn't occurred before. Let's go back to the late 70s and 80s, Adriana. Mm-hmm. So let's talk, educate all of us on what was the lifeboat, the financial lifeboat, the financial insurance policy for people back in the late 70s, early 80s, when this happened just like this.
Absolutely. So everyone really the intelligent turned to gold and silver, in my personal opinion. I think it's absolutely critical. Gold and silver are always going to work in opposition of the dollar, no matter what happens. And it secures your money so that you get more bang for your buck, which is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get more bang for our buck. So inflation kicks in and it kills us, and then we have to try to work to get our dollar back to where it needs to be. But at this point, as we keep throwing debt on, it's not going to happen. So that's why it's even more critical to have gold and silver to preserve your wealth at this point.
So many people, when they hear our interviews, they contact their broker or stockbroker, and their stockbroker says, "Oh, you don't want to buy physical precious metals. If you really want to do this and diversify and have an insurance policy of having gold and silver, well, there are some paper assets, so-called ETFs, that you can buy, and that's just the same as owning physical precious metals." Now, please address this, Adriana. Is that statement that these brokers have been making, is that accurate and true?
So nothing about that statement is true. And it actually, in my opinion, goes even further than it being just wrong. ETFs have paper contracts. What it is required technically, and I say technically, because you're supposed to have them backed by physicals. So for every ETF that's sold, they're supposed to say, well, there's an ounce of this sitting in here or there. And you and I both know nowadays that's not the case, because computers and technology have the power to fib numbers, to create more on a supply chain than there is. And that's why ETFs are very dangerous, in my personal opinion, because if they were to come to call, all that silver and gold would have to be delivered. And I don't believe that it is backed like it should be. ETFs also, you run risk of, just keyboard deletion, in my opinion. I'm adamant about the physical, about you taking possession, about you taking it into your home if you can, or storing it in a private facility. But the physical is absolutely critical, and brokers will never sell you physicals because it takes money off of their books and puts the power into your hands.
That's exactly what government doesn't want either, do they?
No, absolutely not. They want to control the money.
The Fed doesn't want that. The banksters don't want. No. Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP, they don't want that, do they?
Absolutely not. Jamie Dimon, you and I spoke about this, sent out a letter that people would not be able to store precious metals in deposit boxes, I think because he was trying to skew people from not making a purchase.
Well, when he sent that letter out, Adriana, tell me if I'm wrong, yes. He and his organization, his bank, JP Morgan Chase, were accumulating in their own private vault.
Yes, in London.
Huge amounts of gold and silver.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when it comes to that guy, and any bankster, don't do as they say, do as they do, kind of, as long as it's legal.
Yeah.
Because a lot of stuff they do, right? A lot of the stuff they do is a little sketchy, to say the least. So, okay. So then the brokers will tell people, have been telling people, okay, well, it's really hard to buy physical gold and silver. It's beyond difficult. Well, maybe if you're dealing with maybe not a reputable organization, but let's talk about how Camino does this. And it serves as a blueprint for people that, let's say they have their Uncle Wally, and Uncle Wally says, I know this guy who sells precious metals, and you go to Uncle Wally. Go to Uncle Wally, trust me, go to my buddy, he'll help. Well, when they go to Uncle Wally's buddy, we have to make sure that they don't encounter red flags. So the easiest way is to obviously go to the CaminoCompany.com. Camino Company. Just give you a call, whatever. We'll talk about that later. But let's say they go to Uncle Wally's buddy. Okay? Mm-hmm. Take people through the process you use that has been there for decades at Camino when Bert started it.
Yes.
Take people through the process that I believe is the most transparent, the most honest, the most straightforward. Take people through the process so when they get into Uncle Wally's buddy's operation, there's some red flags start going off if they don't find it's the same as what the Camino Company has developed over all these decades.
Right, absolutely. So when you call us, we'll have a conversation about your spending capability. And I always am adamant about treating everybody exactly the same, no matter how much you look to spend, whether it's, $100 to, the powers that be, add some decimal points. For me, I'm really adamant about making sure we have a plan that works best for you. We'll go over all of the items that you should purchase. We lock in the prices at that point. You send payment and I deliver material. And it really is that simple. There are some difficulties with getting items here and then out to you quickly. So there are some delays. There are delays due to just pure volume that we're experiencing right now. So just be patient, but we've never not delivered material that we've taken an order for.
And let's talk about, let's start with gold. So somebody wants to buy some gold.
Yes.
What are the options they have?
Right. So the main coins that we're selling right now are going to be gold eagles are an option. The Mint just came out with the Type 2 reverse where they changed the design on the back of the gold eagle. Then you also have the Canadian Maple Leaf, which is a really great option because it's a 24 karat coin. We're also very adamant about the Australian Kangaroo. It runs a really low premium. It's a 24 karat coin and is a great option. We also are offering South African Cougarans as well, which are are actually technically the oldest gold coin that bullion wise. So there's different options and ways to go about it. We also do offer bars. So that's another option if you feel comfortable with that. But there's a couple of things when it comes to the bars is number one, make sure that you buy from a reputable source because bars are easily faked. Number two, be aware of what your sell back, when you go to sell, the price that we would buy it back. Make sure that you're getting a good deal because some people try to discount the bars just in the general sense of things. For buying in bulk, we offer 1 ounce bars, 10 ounce bars, and we also offer kilo bars as well.
But your first choice would be more coins, correct? Because they're
typically I lean people towards coins at low premiums. The reason being is just because I think they're safer just to have, and also I just find there are people who have to go to their local coin shop because they need maybe quick cash or the money immediately. They don't have the time to ship it to us and then get the money back. So the best way to go about it is to go down to the corner store, and the coins are always going to have a better buyback. So I always want to steer you in the right direction for that. And
at this point, what about availability of gold? Because a concern is that there's a run on gold that and it's difficult to get. Where are we with that?
So we're not really experiencing any difficulties with gold at this point in time. The gold is going out fairly quickly. Once your check clears or your wire clears, the gold ships pretty quickly. There are a couple of items that do have a little bit of a delay, but you can talk to the traders about which item delivers fastest if you take preference to that.
So let's now talk silver. Options in silver people have.
Yeah. So right now, the one thing I'm recommending most often is going to be the privately minted material. So that's going to be what we call 1 ounce rounds. They're just made by U.S. issued mints that are private. They come in different, designs, shape, form. They're coin form, 3/9 fine, silver, and are a really great option because they run the lowest premium of all the silver items. We do have silver eagles for those who want them, and we completely understand that people like the, government issued American made, but I do find the premiums on silver eagles are incredibly steep. I mean, you're looking at $10 over spot on a $26 spot price. So, you're looking at 30-40% premium right off the bat. So I typically steer people away. But we also have the 10 ounce bars and then the 100 ounce bars, which are a great option if you want to buy in bulk, so that you can put it away. And they run extremely low premiums on the 100 ounce bars as well.
What about availability for silver?
So the silver is it is becoming more available, it seems. It seems that production is starting to pick up again, with the mints being able to go back to full capacity. But we are still it can be anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks on delivery, just off of volume that we're doing, and also the orders coming in as quickly as possible.
You mentioned the word premium. So some people will look and they'll say, well, the paper price of precious metals is, let's say silver, $26 an ounce. So that means when I call Uncle Wally's buddy or Camino or anybody, the price I'll pay is $26 per ounce. That's not the case because there's always a premium involved, and the premium obviously changes from depending on what's happening economically. Educate our listeners on premiums, where they are today as opposed to historically.
Yeah, so this is probably close to the highest I've seen premiums since probably 2011. When we went through the mortgage crisis back in 2008, metals peaked in 2010 and 11, which is also the reason why I'm telling people I feel that 2020 was that catastrophic event that they caused. And so in the next couple of years, we'll see the side effects of it, like we did in 2008. What I am finding is the premiums are high, but we're trying to keep them as low as possible, keeping those margins really, really tight, closest to the spot price, but also recommending that that's why you steer towards those items that have the low premiums.
So folks call you.
Yes.
I'm interested in some gold, some silver. So take them through the next steps. So if they do call Uncle Wally's buddy and he starts doing some funny business, they have some red flags. Take us through the process you use that's very clear cut.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you give us a call, you would talk to one of the traders, like I said. We'll go over the pricing. So the traders, especially now with premiums being as high as they are always going to recommend items that have the lowest premium possible. We want you to obtain more ounces rather than pay a higher price for the material itself. So we'll steer you towards what's best for you, what works for you. Once we lock in those prices, we give you a contract number. That contract number is basically a verbal agreement that you're going to pay that price and we're going to deliver the metals at that price, no matter the market change, especially with the volatility that's going on right now. You can send us payment. We can either send you the wire instructions if you want to do a wire. We also accept checks. You can mail us a check, a personal check, cashier's check, your choice. The checks, we do require 5 business days for it to clear before it's even put onto the shipping queue. And then wires are 48 hours before it would be ready to ship. The process is pretty simple. You would get a call from us once your package is packed up and at the post office and dropped off. We call with the tracking numbers so that you can track the package the whole way there.
And when the package arrives, many people are concerned. It's going to say, here's your gold, or here's your silver, or here's your gold and silver. Talk about packaging.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things we are by title, we are Camino Coin Company. When we send packages out, we put Camino Company and leave the coin out, just because we don't want to put any red flags or visual for people. Number 2, we pack the coins in their tubes tightly. We tape all the tubes. We also put usually peanuts, so that the metals don't hit each other and make noise that signify what's inside the box. We double box, so there's a box inside the box as well. So that also keeps it safe with the weight of the package. Some packages can be, 30 to 50 pounds, so it can get pretty heavy, especially with silver. So we pack everything really tight. We also make sure that it's registered. We make sure that it's insured, so that on its way to you, everything is safe and gets there safely.
And then once people obtain they get their gold and silver.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Yeah. So let's put it in a little bag, and let's take it to the bank and put it in our safety deposit box, right?
No. So the number one thing I don't recommend is to put it in a safety deposit box. What we're trying to do is we're trying to get your money away from the banking system, because it is a real problem, especially during collapse. I also saw with COVID, I don't know about your banks around you, but you had to call and make an appointment, and the accessibility was not as easy as it should have been.
Right.
So people were in a very, stuck in a pretty bad position for people who needed to maybe use their metals to cover expenses. And I don't want anybody in that position. So number one, if you can store it at your home and you feel safe with that, if you can get a good fireproof safe, which out here we have lots of fires, so I always recommend fireproof safes. If it's always my go-to option if you feel safe at home. Number two is you can utilize a safety deposit company. So these are going to be private companies that would help you to store your materials. They do all the insurance. You just pay the fees. They keep everything. They're also private, though, so they have nothing to do with the banking system whatsoever.
And let's take it in reverse. So now folks decide, hey, I need to sell some.
Yeah.
Stockbrokers will say, oh, it's hard to sell it. Is that the case? Because my experience is that it's just what you just said about buying, at least with Camino, just in reverse.
It is, absolutely. So you would call us up, you lock in the prices, we give you the contract number, you ship the metals, and we send out payment.
Now, our friends go to Uncle Wally's buddy, right? And they say, so Uncle Wally's buddy, so they're premiums. We understand about premiums, but is it important for our listeners to know about Uncle Wally's buddy actually gets paid by commission on the sale?
Right.
So first of all, educate our listeners on commission. Second of all, how does that figure with Camino?
So we don't work on commission, Dave, and I actually joke with people because we are a family business and very competitive people. I don't think that commission would be healthy for our home life. So at this point, we don't work on commission, considering it's my husband, my mother, and father are all the employees actually that Camino has. So we prefer the healthy way. So we don't work on commission, and we also just don't deem it necessary, because one of the things that I'm very adamant about is, and I have turned people away that were not ready to make a purchase, because I think that you need to have the knowledge of precious metals. And we can have lots of conversations up to the point of purchase, because I really want you to understand what it is that you're doing. And I don't want it to just be, I just did a video, you saw the video and you said that you needed to do it. I want you to understand why we're doing this and why it's so critical in your well-being.
So folks call Uncle Wally's buddy, and Uncle Wally's buddy says, hey, look, I understand that you want to buy some gold and silver. Here's the deal. I got something called numismatics. I have this limited edition silver 1 ounce coin that has Joe Biden falling down the stairs of Air Force One on it, right? And this, I know silver. This is Uncle Wally's buddy. I know silver is at $26 an ounce, and our premium on that is premium on that, or usual premium is $8. So now we're 34. But because this is so rare, it's a numismatic, if you will, not. So here we go. So the Uncle Wally's buddy says, okay, $26 and another $8 for the premium, and then we're tacking on an extra amount because it's a numismatic,
Right.
okay?
Yeah.
One of a kind, two of a kind, or something. They'll also use numismatic, obviously, for something in rare that's in the 1800s, 1700s, blah, blah, blah. So educate our listeners on when they hear the word numismatic, what should they think?
So here's to explain it best, bullion should never be numismatic. There should never be a purchase of modern material that would ever indicate that you want to buy a numismatic coin. Now, the only ones that I will talk about, which are partially numismatic coins, are pre-1933 gold, which I do think is a really great option when you're trying to diversify a portfolio, but that is a separate conversation. So never get caught with the red flag immediately. If it's a limited edition, modern made, buy it now, it's the time to buy, those types of statements are nothing that we're looking for, because they have a tendency to peak in their cost, and then will flatline right after.
Now let's talk about, at Camino, you have these packages or kits, if you will, related to our previous discussion of inflation or stagflation. Educate our listeners on these inflation kits.
Absolutely. So what we're going to start doing is, and you'll see it on our website this week, is we are going to get out inflation kits. So what we've created is what we think is absolutely critical in order to preserve your wealth. There's multiple ways to go about it. I see the dollar in a 3-case scenario. Number one, we're going to have to default the dollar and switch over to a new currency because of the debt that we've obtained, and there's no way to get out of fiat currency and what it's done. Number two, probably the rarest of incidents would be that we have something like Venezuela, where things just go to hell in a handbasket and people are on the street and don't know what to do. So they would have to use material like precious metals in order to pay for food, pay for gas, buy a house or whatever it is. You may have to use metals. So all of the items that we've picked out are all items that we think can be used. They are good to cross you over into a new currency. And then also, if they don't default the fiat currency, but they just keep letting inflation get worse and worse on us, they also are going to hold great value during those times as well. So those are the 3 scenarios that we created the inflation kit to be able to cover.
Now, these kits don't have these numismatic things we just talked about. They are educate us on the contents of what's in these kits to protect people.
Right. So we have 2 kits that will be available. We have a $5,000 kit and a $10,000 kit. What they have is one's going to have a gold eagle, one with some 10th ounce pieces, which are smaller gold pieces if you had to barter. Then they're also going to have 90% in them.
90% silver.
Correct. Yes. Okay. And then also some 1 ounce silver coins as well. The smaller kit, we took out the gold eagle. The 1 ounce coin will not be in the smaller kit, but you will still get the 10th ounce with some 90% silver and also some 1 ounce silver coins. And I think that it's probably the best way to just know that you have that security blanket in there. It's kind of like having an earthquake box. It's the same thing. You reach for it when you need it.
It's kind of like, we have a lot of people have go-to bags in case, and not just that if there's something like out of the ordinary, but for example, if there's a fire or in the house, or if there's or a flood coming and you have to get out, or a hurricane or something. People have go-to bags. This is essentially a financial go-to bag.
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. And that will be up on your at CaminoCompany.com.
Yeah. So just head over to the website. The kits will be live, though. You have to speak to a trader for the kit.
Okay.
They won't be offered for purchase online. It has to be a phone call.
You'll have information. You'll have information on the kits on the website.
It will be.
But to order, you have to talk to it. Yeah, which is okay. And the same, people can order off your website, correct? For precious metals, not the kits, but regular precious metals. But also, you tend to do most of your trades and sales by phone.
Yes, and so we also, as a company, we prefer to have that connection with our customers so that we can talk about what's best for you. Like I said, I also want to get to know my customers. I think that it's critical, especially because we're working with your money, that I want you to understand that you are safe, that you are in a good place. before you make your purchase, and that we have that connection that I don't believe can be done over a computer.
And let's talk about IRAs for a second.
Yes.
Many people have been told, they say, well, I want to diversify in my IRA. I want to have some insurance in my IRA, that being precious metals, gold, physical, not paper, as we discussed earlier, physical gold and silver. And brokers tell people in an IRA, there is zero chance, there is zero ways that you can get physical precious metals in an IRA. Is that statement true?
There's nothing about that statement that's true, Dave. Oh. So you can make a purchase in an IRA. You have to call and let us know what type of IRA you have, because some of them are actually not open as much to purchase power of physical precious metals like I would like them to be. But we will try and do our best to get the job done. So typically what happens is it's more has to do with the custodian itself. So whoever, Vanguard or, any IRA holding custodian will tell you that they can't do that. What you can do is you can roll your IRA over into a company that does allow the purchase of precious metals. So if you give us a call, there's a couple of companies that we work with that we find very reliable. New Direction IRA Company, Gold Star Trust. They're in Texas. New Direction is in Colorado. And then what they have is they have storage facilities across the United States. So you pick one that's maybe close to you, one that you maybe feel comfortable with. You make the purchase through the IRA. Both of these companies are self-directed as well, which is the reason why I like to work with them. So you're going to call me, give me your IRA number, make the purchase. I send them the invoice, and then we ship the metals to the depository for holding.
Perfect. Now, Adriana, you've been in this business a considerable amount of time.
Yes.
There are customers of yours that are very long-term customers.
Yes.
And many of the long-term customers are, I would probably venture to guess, pretty savvy when it comes to the markets, the financial markets as well as the gold and silver market. Is that a fair assumption?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So your long-term customers, where are they right now? Are they holding steady? Are they selling? Can you give us? Are they buying?
Yeah.
What's your read on the long-term customers that are more financially savvy, let's say, than some other individuals?
So we're finding that a lot of the long-term companies or customers that have been through those waves with us throughout the years, they're coming out of the woodworks right now to make sure that they add to their portfolio with precious metals. A lot of it, I think, is because they're just very, very aware of the economic circumstances, the stagflation, the chance of hyperinflation. So they're putting their money in a safe haven at this point. And I think, it's unfortunately the best choice.
Now, obviously, there are financial constraints on everybody in our country based on what's happening with Biden-Flation or stagflation, whatever you want to call it, and what's happening around our country and around the world with the underlying economies. Are there many people, just from off the streets in the general public, selling precious metals at this point?
We don't really have a lot of customers selling precious metals at this point in time. Unfortunately, I think there are some people who are selling because they have no choice, or they're putting their money into certain things. We have a lot of people who are purchasing, a home, for example, or things like that, where they have they're putting money elsewhere. But typically, I'm going to say that the ratio of buying to selling is by no means equal. There's more people buying and I think preparing themselves for the next couple of years and what we're going to see.
Adriana, in conclusion, what is the biggest mistake people make when it comes to precious metals?
Dave, I think that it's one of those things that we overthink, probably would be the best way to put it. For me, you and I have talked about this multiple times. When you really look at it as insurance, it's money out that it seems like you would be, maybe not in a good place to make that purchase oh, I'm not really sure if I'm ready. I don't know if I really want to do it this month. I should do it. It was on my list of things to do. And, get it done. It's so important to keeping and preserving your wealth that, it's there for when you need it. And those times are coming. Those times will always come as long as the Federal Reserve is around. And you and I both know that.
Right.
And, it's just a preparation tool.
So educate our listeners in how they can learn more about the Camino Company and how they can get in touch with you and the team there.
Yeah. So you can head over to our website at CaminoCompany.com. You can also contact me directly. It's ADRIANA 1N at CaminoCompany.com. Or you can give us a call at 800-348-8001.
Now, you're based in California.
Yes.
What are your hours of operation? I know the website's 24/7, but what are your hours of operation, phone and contact-wise?
Right. So we're open 8 to 4 Pacific Standard Time, Monday through Friday, and we do sometimes do appointments on the weekends if you are local.
Very good. Adriana, I'd like to thank you and the entire team at Camino for everything you have done, are doing, and will do. You truly have created a financial lifeboat, an insurance policy lifeboat for every person who's willing to listen and take actions for their financial freedom and economic freedom, and I thank you for doing so.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
And I'd like to thank you folks for joining us. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.